I'm wondering, how good can USC secondary be in 2025? Because when I peel back the layers and I look at the schedule, I ask myself, which quarterbacks on that schedule are actually going to hurt USC's defense and come at the secondary?
You are Locked On USC, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Holkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC part of the Locked On Network, your first listen every day. Whether you are watching the show on YouTube, wherever you want to download this podcast, this show is always going to be free, and this show is always going to appreciate your support. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers, you can get $150 in bonus bets when that first $5 bet wins. So earlier today, I was on the Eyes of the Big Ten podcast. Great show. Had a lot of fun. Long show. Went over an hour. That's how much fun we were having. We talked about everything USC. And then we kind of, went down a rabbit hole a little bit towards the end. We're comparing the big conference to other conferences, out-of-conference scheduling, the former Pac-12 to the big conference, all that type of stuff. Like I said, really good show. Had a lot of fun. Got a little contentious there at the end, but go check it out. All right, go check it out. It's called Eyes on the Big Ten. It'll be should be published by the time you're reading or watching this or listening to this episode. I'll put it out there on social media once I get it. So one of the segments we were talking about the defense and the concern in the secondary. That seems to be the primary concern for USC's defense this year. Look at the rundown here. That's the first thing we're going to talk about here in the first segment. In the second segment, I'm going to tell you why vanilla is really good. It's going to be good enough. And then, as always, Friday, we end the show. I got a Friday rant. I got a couple of topics we're going to talk about, get off my chest. So here we go. It's going to be a lot of fun. Stick around. So Jeff and I, we were talking about USC's defense. And, obviously, USC has to replace 5 starters from last year. 4 of their 5 starters. Greedy Vance is in the NFL. Jalen Smith, Jacoby Covington, Achille Arnold, John Humphrey. Kamari Ramsey is the lone man on Survivor Island. And it's the one you want. I mean, he was one of the better players on USC's defense last year. He's a playmaker. And he knows Antonlynn's system better than, well, not better than Coach Lynn, but probably better than anybody else on that roster. So you have him playing safety. You brought in Bishop Fitzgerald from North Carolina State, Christian Pierce. Those are going to be the guys battling out in the rotation. And you also brought in other guys. You got Kennedy or Locker. But I think the top 3 guys, Pierce, Ramsey, and Fitzgerald. Brain fart. Anyways, the cornerback and nickel spots are still up for grabs. And then after Wednesday night's practice, this is what Coach Lynn had to say. He said, look, right now we're super competitive, which is good, but it's still open of the cornerback spots. Just looking for people to separate themselves, but the competition is good. All right, we're in the middle of the second week of fall camp. I'll be back out there again today while you're watching this episode, Friday morning. And, I'll bring an update from there. But right now, we're almost halfway through camp. Once they finish week 2, there's only 4 weeks of camp, so you can do the math. Coach Trovon Reed, he came over. He's going to be USC's cornerbacks coach. He inherited a really talented room, but it's inexperienced for the most part. I mean, you had some guys returning with experience, DeCarlos Nicholson, Prophet Brown, but other than that, not a lot of snaps in that room. So you brought in Chasen Johnson and DJ Harvey out of the transfer portal. You had, like I said, you had Prophet Brown, Marcellus Williams, Braylon Conley, and then this past recruiting class, Alex Graham, James Johnson, Tristan Castro, and RJ Sermons. A lot of talent, just young, inexperienced. Save for Prophet Brown, who's a redshirt senior. So that's the room. Basically, right now, it's about picking the starting rotation. And as Coach Lynn said, the competition right now, wide open. But is it really? I mean, Coach Reed, he knows what he's getting from Chasen Johnson. He was his position coach last year at Central Florida. DJ Harvey, he brings that physical ball hawking style, a bunch of interceptions in his back pocket. And then, as I mentioned, DeCarlos Nicholson, this will be his second year in Dan Lynn's system. Prophet Brown is the front runner at nickel. And I think DJ Harvey's also going to get some run there. Alex Graham, his name was mentioned at the nickel spot. So all those other aforementioned names, they're part of the rotation. If Coach Lynn gets his way, wants to do what he wants to do, which is rotate 8 to 10 guys per game, you got the guys. It's just a matter of who's going in front of who and at what positions. Two reasons why I think the defensive backs are going to have a chance to get right before things can get hairy, where it can get a little sketchy. The schedule, right? Again, I look at the schedule and I don't see a quarterback that's going to send shivers down your spine. Definitely not going to scare anybody on USC's roster. And if USC's front four is going to, if you can get pressure in the backfield, unlike last season, look, games 1 and 2, I mean, what a great way to kind of ease in, get comfortable at home. I mean, and then when you go on the road, I had to look up the names of the different quarterbacks at Purdue. They brought in 50 new players, and it looks like 2 of them were quarterbacks. Look, does anybody recognize the name Malachi Singleton? He was a transfer from Arkansas. Bennett Meredith, he's a game manager type. I think he was the guy who stuck around when everybody hits a transfer portal. And then they brought in Ryan Brown, another quarterback. He was actually on the Boilermakers roster at one time, transferred to North Carolina. Now he's come back again. So nothing scary there. Those are USC's first 3 games: Missouri State, Georgia Southern, Purdue on the road. You come home. Then your next game, you're hosting Michigan State. Is Aiden Childs, I don't know, maybe he becomes a star this year. He's from Southern California. He's going to be playing in front of family and friends. Played at Downey High School. Maybe he has that magical game. That maybe this is the season for him. Game 5, this is the one where I think it happens. Where, all right, you say, all right, USC's facing their first true test against a quarterback. Luke Altmaier, Illinois. I guess we can say he's the first legitimate threat, all right? But he's another one of those game manager type of quarterbacks. He's not going to, have a bunch of big splash plays. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he does this year. But when you watch his film, you don't look at him and go, oh, whoa, yeah, got a game plan for that. After Illinois, you come home, USC hosts Michigan. Look, I get it. I really do. Bryce Underwood, extremely talented. He's being paid like he's extremely talented for a true freshman. But he is a true freshman. And he'll be playing on the road again. So let's see how he handles the game at Norman, Oklahoma. Let's see how he handles the atmosphere in Lincoln, Nebraska. Before we get all hot and bothered about Michigan coming to town and Bryce Underwood, he'll be playing those teams on the road before he gets to LA. He might be broken by then. Who knows? Or it could go the opposite direction. He can be all that. We will find out. Notre Dame. All right. They have another quarterback, whether it's going to be a transfer or someone that they brought up through their own system. Look, that quarterback is there to hand the ball off to Jermaine Love. All right? Are we being honest with each other? They'll throw the ball. They will keep USC's defense honest, but it's not a dynamic passing offense that Marcus Freeman employs. The game is in South Bend. That's a whole nother factor. We know things go crazy when USC and Notre Dame play, especially in South Bend. Strange things happen. So that will be the test for the secondary more than the guy who's playing under center for Notre Dame. Can they handle the atmosphere? Again, there's so much riding on this game. Will this be the last game in the series? That, again, a lot of extracurricular type of stuff. Nebraska's next on the schedule. Dylan Raiola. Now, here's maybe the first true, really, really good quarterback that USC should be concerned with, because it's in Lincoln, Nebraska. Dana Holgerson, offensive coordinator, mad scientist. He looks like one. This could be the best quarterback that USC actually plays in 2025. He's only going to be a sophomore, but it is later in the season. So by this time, he will have essentially 2 full seasons under his belt as Nebraska's starter. Northwestern's quarterback, come on, let's just moving on. Iowa at home, again in LA. Mark Gronowski, the transfer from South Dakota State. He has championship experience. But again, he looks more like a game manager. Here's the stats. He's 63.6% career passer. That was at the FCS level. He completed 68% of his passes in 2023 for a career high of 3,058 yards. He might be Iowa's most prolific quarterback statistically. You got to go back all the way to 2011. Remember James Vandenberg? Yeah, that was their last 3,000-yard passer. So over under, does Iowa hit the 3,000-yard mark in the passing game this year? They are better on offense than they were a couple of years ago. Last year they made an improvement. As I was talking with Jeff on the show, he was saying, it's kind of interesting, Mark. USC made a 10-point improvement on defense in the positive direction. Iowa did the same thing offensively. They increased their points per game average by 10 points last year. So let's see. We'll see what they do in LA in 2025. So next up, Oregon on the road, Dante Moore. Is he any good? We'll know by then. If he is the starter, and again, he is the presumptive starter. The offensive coordinator at Oregon seems to have a quarterback-friendly system. We know that Dante has the ability. I mean, he was one of the more highly recruited quarterbacks coming out of high school. He benched himself at UCLA. He wasn't ready for this, for the situation. Now he's at Oregon. Then you got the last game of the year against UCLA, Nico Iamaleava, right? This is the one that could cause some damage. We know he likes to use his legs. So if USC's secondary is a concern, we'll find out there's only a few quarterbacks that I think are going to really threaten USC with the passing game. But if USC's defensive line does their job, the concern is minimized significantly. Lots of depth. Just got to get it figured out. Got to figure out that rotation. All right. Next segment, like I said, vanilla's good. Sometimes plain Jane, it's good enough. I'll tell you why in the next segment. Summer sports, full swing, right? And whether you're all about baseball, under the lights, maybe you're, want to do some golfing. All right, I get it. Maybe you like soccer action. FanDuel is the best way to make every game more exciting. You're already following the action regardless of the sport. So let's make it more exciting, a little bit more thrilling. With FanDuel, you get in on the game while your friends are hanging out on the beach doing nothing. It's easy to use, fast to pay out, and makes even regular season games feel like must-watch events. Whether you're placing a same-game parlay, watching your bet right into the 9th inning, FanDuel makes it feel like you're part of the action. And if you want to be new to FanDuel, perfect time. New customers, if you can bet $5 and it wins, you're going to get $150 in bonus bets. Open the FanDuel app today, visit or just head on over to FanDuel.com/lockedon and you can get started today. Okay, so I told everybody who was watching the show, Locked On USC's episode yesterday, that I would put some practice film up. Well, here you go. You can watch this while I talk about the next topic, vanilla. Anybody like vanilla ice cream? I do. Give me 3 scoops of vanilla, please. Give me 3 scoops. Here's where I'm going with this. If USC needs to show any kind of exotic plays on offense through their first 3 games, then USC's offense is in big, big trouble. I'm not trying to downplay the competition. I respect the competition, but I'm also a realist. They're not good. USC's first 3 games should be easy blowout wins. They're warm-up games, plain and simple. So, look, without cheating and looking it up online, I bet you not one person watching or listening to the show knows a single name on either roster, Georgia Southern or Missouri State. I looked up Missouri State's roster just to see what they're bringing to the Coliseum. This is their first year playing a full schedule at the FBS level. I recognize the name Makai Cope. He's from Southern California, from LA, Culver City. I watched him a couple times on the 7-on-7 circuit. He's at Missouri State. And I can't even remember anyone's name on Coach Helton's squad. What does that tell you? Here's the other reason why I think it's going to be pretty vanilla for the first 2 games. And I think even for one reason specifically against Georgia Southern, it'll be interesting to watch how it plays out. But I don't think Coach Riley wants to embarrass Coach Clay Helton, not at his former school. What do you gain out of that? I know some fans will get a lot of satisfaction. They want him drawn and quartered. They want to treat him like Braveheart. Remember the end of the movie? Ooh, yeah. Look, I think once USC gets to 40-plus points, I think Coach Riley will kind of call off the starters, get the backup some action. Offensively, what you need to do in these first 3 games, you got the offensive line. They're trying to, find themselves, build that chemistry. Just get your timing down, right? Get those basic concepts working. Play relatively mistake-free football. And I think this would also be a really good test for Coach Riley and his play calling discipline. Just put it up. Can Coach Riley call a conservative game plan? And can he stick with it? As each game goes by, you show a little bit more, not a whole lot. On the road, you might have to do a couple things here and there. But 3 games, getting all that fat trimmed off of Jaden Mayaba's decision-making. All of a sudden, he's on a diet. You trim that fat. He can come out looking sexy in a game, right? By the way, isn't that one of the most beautiful sunsets? You got great effort going on there on the practice field. I can't turn the volume up because there's music playing in the background, but there was great music, and look at that sunset. Amazing. That's why USC is the place to be. You cannot replicate that anywhere else in the country. Sorry, you just can't. Back to what I'm talking about here. So 3 games, plain vanilla, and it will taste great, especially if USC plays disciplined football, mistake-free football, and they just come out on the winning side looking like they beat the teams they're supposed to beat the way they're supposed to beat them. That's a win. I will take 48-0, 48-20, the 14, whatever. Those are dominant wins. Do that on the road. You'll send a message. Defensively, rush 4. Again, keep it vanilla. Keep it very plain and simple. Find out who plays better with the guys next to them on that defensive line. Get your rotations down. It's all about timing. Seeing who can handle certain situations the best. But again, I just don't think you need to do anything sexy, anything exotic. If you're going to rush the quarterback, rush 4. Maybe bring a blitz every now and then just to kind of see how it looks, get some timing down. But you don't have to disguise it. If you want to delay a blitz, fine. A cornerback blitz, do you need to do that against teams like Missouri State or Georgia Southern? Don't you want to have that element of surprise as the schedule gets more challenging, more difficult? I think that's the case. So what do you think? For USC, it just has to be very basic. Missouri State, Georgia Southern, on the road at Purdue, and we can even include Michigan State into this discussion. Jonathan Smith, I like him as a coach. I mean, again, I'm using the word sexy. He doesn't do anything sexy. Everything is just, gritty, tough, disciplined, run the ball, and then all of a sudden he'll pop something on you. He'll bring something out of his bag of tricks in his playbook. And that's something, when he was at Oregon State, he had to do that. I don't know if he's going to have to do that at Michigan State. I know he's still building that program. But until USC travels to Illinois, there's really no reason to show anybody anything. No trick plays. Nothing's necessary yet. Show off your top 4, 5, 6 receivers. In fact, change that rotation up through the first couple of games. Don't give the teams on your schedule anything to really look at, consider, and say, all right, we got to focus on that. They'll know which players to focus on, but that's what I don't think you're giving away any state secrets that Jacoby Lane and Mekhi Lemon are going to be the guys. But USC has 3 really good running backs. The tight ends are probably going to be part of the offense. There you go. Another example. Save the tight end. Show it here and there, but save it for a special game. Just saying. That's all. Just saying. Give me 3 scoops of vanilla to start the season, and I'll be great. I will be fantastic. All right, so you got to watch some action. This is why I think sometimes vanilla is good enough. All right, coming up next, I got my Friday rant. Got a couple things I'm going to get off my chest. This one's going to be a little spicy. All right, a couple of things here. Number one, and this is not the first time I brought this topic up. However, it keeps coming up, and I think I'm reaching my breaking point. Can we please stop with the black jersey narrative? Enough. Can we just stop with this nonsense already? Please. If you folks need an alternate jersey that bad, fine. I get it. I'm flexible. But do a throwback jersey that USC has worn in the past. Right? Black is not an option. The only black that USC should be wearing on that football field are their cleats. I am so tired of this coming up every other month. It makes no sense. I don't get it. I just don't know why we have to have this conversation. I think what bothers me more than the idea of a black alternate uniform, it's usually the younger generation that has zero respect for tradition. And what probably actually drew them to becoming a USC fan in the first place, I mean, if it wasn't USC's tradition, what was it? The cool colors they wear? Their fight song? Their mascot? The Trojan Warrior? The band? What? The way they played football under Pete Carroll? Tell me. Because no, they never wore a black jersey then, and it didn't need to. Certain segments of the Trojan family, and it's usually, not always, just typically, it's the younger, more ignorant members of the Trojan fan base. I don't know. For some reason, they think it's funny when those of us who are older and wiser, the ones who are just doing our very best to keep tradition alive in college football, they like to see us get upset at the idea. I literally had someone on the WeAreSC.com message board say it. He gets a giggle out of it. Well, let this old fart blow some more hot air in your direction, Junior. We're not afraid of change, right? I've seen more change that's happened over time than you've probably played your favorite video game. However, changing for the sake of changing, because it's the latest fad, sorry, that's called stupid. That's called being a sheep. That's calling doing what everything, just because they're doing it, I got to do it too. It's just because there's a TikTok viral video doesn't mean you have to do it. You're not cool if you do it. You're a follower. So go ahead. Get your private little chuckle because, look, I'll be honest. I think, and I'm using the word you in the ubiquitous sense. I'm not singling anyone out when I make this next comment. I think the group who wants to do this whole black jersey thing, I think you're a hypocrite, especially if you admit that it'll never happen. So, like I said, I just don't understand why you like to push that button. I don't know. Maybe you're one of those, maybe you're into the whole TikTok thing, right? Maybe you're into the whole, let's see if I can get a cheap reaction and go viral with it. I don't know. Is that who you are? I'm probably not going to invite you to my tailgate if that's the type of person you are. I'm not saying you're a bad person, but I'm not a big fan of that whole thing. You know, they talk about the demographics and the folks who want to keep, just like I said, I just want to keep a shred of tradition alive in college football. But all of a sudden, when we push back, you all get a little butthurt, get a little chafing going on down there. So again, I guess my question is, if it's never going to happen and you really don't believe it's going to happen, why does this topic need to be fleshed out every other month? Bury it, please. Thank you. You want to do an alternate jersey? Again, USC has plenty of previous uniforms. Pick one. Run with it. I'll even compromise. You want to do one of those chromatic helmets like they did back in the day where they look like a bunch of Christmas tree ornaments running around? Fine. Just leave the uniform itself alone, please. Thank you. Enough of your tantrums. You can stamp your feet as loud as you want. I'm not going to change. You're never going to change my mind on this, ever. All right. Let's just put this next argument to bed because there is zero argument, right? USC is not just tailback U. USC is also wide receiver U. Does Ohio State and LSU have an argument to make? Absolutely, for sure. Both programs have put some outstanding wide receivers in the NFL. Just not as many as USC. In fact, how do you like this fact? No one has more wide receivers drafted into the NFL than USC. The data does not lie. USC leads all schools with 54 wide receivers drafted all time. Yeah, 54. Look, like I said, if you're a program like Ohio State who has 50, that's a really good number. You're still behind USC. Florida and Tennessee, they got 45 each. That's great. I would puff out my chest if I was a school like that. You got Miami with 44. Nothing to be ashamed of. But USC, they hold the record for the most first round draft picks with 10. Okay? You want me to get to the heart of the matter? Did you know there's only 3 schools that have had a had a wide receiver drafted number 1 overall? Well, we know USC had Keyshawn Johnson. All those other schools, Ohio State, LSU that I mentioned, they're not on that list. No, Stanford and Nebraska. I guarantee you, Stanford and Nebraska are not part of the wide receiver U conversation. So while LSU and Ohio State have been competitive, they're churning out guys, a lot of guys. None of us surpassed USC overall. And you know what? USC's got 2 guys that are going to be drafted more than likely in the 2026 draft. Mekhi Lemon, Jacoby Lane. Ohio State, they're going to have some guys also. But let's just look, if we're being honest, we're just looking at the overall numbers. Bottom line it out. USC is still wide receiver U. Or is LSU or Ohio State maybe having their best years right now? Sure. You're still playing catch up. All right. There you go. I had to get that off my chest because there was a little battle going on social media, and I always get the last word on this show, so why not, right? Again, black jerseys, no, don't do it. Trojan family, come together on this one. Our colors are cardinal and gold. See? Cardinal gold. That's it. And yes, I know I got this thing. This is a trucker hat. You'll never see me wear it to a game. But I like trucker hats. And that's not even USC's logo. Just it's different. So all right, I get it. That's it. The end of the show. I will be back again with another 5 episodes next week. Locked on USC. That's what we do. We come at you every day. I'll be at practice again today, this morning. That'll be practice number 8. I don't see anything on the schedule for August the 7th. So that would make day 8 on Friday. Can't wait. I'll give you an update, let you know what's going on. So until then, everyone, you know what to do.